In your own words, explain exactly what has been announced and what this means for global golf.
Yes, it's a big day.
Folks, it isn't every day that I'm dressed like an Italian gigolo with a matching Homa golf bag seated on my lap. But today isn't every day.
Today is hugely significant in our game and for our tour.
Yes, folks, it's true. The PGA Tour has merged with LIV Golf.
I had a chance to sit down with the key players behind the deal, PIF Governor Yasser Al-Rumayyan and PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan.
And I wanted to go through the key takeaways from the videos I've watched that have been released only a few hours ago.
You're right. There's been a lot of tension in our sport over the last couple of years. But what we're talking about today is coming together to unify the game of golf and to do so under one umbrella.
While you're watching this video, take a moment to think about all the PGA Tour players that turned down big LIV Golf money offers because the PGA Tour was pushing the whole loyalty and tradition narrative. And yet, here we are.
It sucked today.
When PGA Tour golfers who didn't go to LIV watch the interview, they're going to see this pop up on the screen. All these LIV guys crushing it. And keep in mind, they also were on the Forbes highest paid athletes list this past year. Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson getting the bag. Number one, Greg Norman was informed that this was going down right before the head of the PIF and Jay Monahan got on that Golf Channel segment to discuss the merger. I don't know what that means.
Does Greg Norman know about this?
He is. I made the call just before this.
How did this deal get done so quickly, and how did they hammer out the details if Greg Norman was just informed right before the head of PIF went on to this interview?
And of course, he's a partner with us and all the stakeholders that we have with us. They had the call just right before this interview.
But from the same video, I also learned that Jay Monahan will still be CEO of this new merger. Here you can see that Yasser Al-Rumayyan will be the chairman and Jay Monahan will be the CEO of the new entity. The PGA Tour will appoint a majority of the board and hold a majority voting interest in the new entity. I also recall reading that there's going to be some type of rebranding. So my question is, does the LIV merch you already have go up significantly in value as now it's probably considered dead stock? Should I put up on eBay my LIV Golf hoodie right now that I still haven't worn and a LIV Golf hat that I also got, thank you John Muno? Did it just appreciate incredibly because this LIV Golf brand will no longer be LIV Golf and instead they're going to change it to something like PGA Lives Forever or something like that? I don't know.
You're a nonprofit, but you're going to create a for-profit. Correct. You're going to merge, essentially,
correct, yes,
and be a for-profit company, correct?
Yes. So the C6 still stays in place, and out of the C6, we'll continue to operate our tours. We'll put our player retirement plans and assets there.
Another key point is that the PGA Tour will go to a for-profit LLC status.
And David, the way that we're doing that is we're creating a for-profit LLC.
Sweet, the PGA Tour will finally start paying taxes.
That the PIF is going to invest in alongside the DP World Tour. And together, we're going to move forward and we're going to take efforts to...
We all know he's going to say, grow the game.
To grow and expand this great game and to take it to new heights.
Though before, there was no way that LIV Golf could grow the game. And don't forget that less than a year ago, PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan said that LIV Golf Invitational Series is an irrational threat to the game. Later in this interview, Jay Monahan also discusses about how they still go into communities and do all this great work.
I think it's very important. One of the things that's important to both of us is every single week when we're playing tournaments, we're making a huge impact in the communities where, we're invited guests. That continues.
But apparently this whole charity washing era of the PGA Tour is over. Now that they got this much needed capital injection from the PIF fund, as per also what Jay Monahan states, even though I thought they were just swimming in cash recently. Hence, we were having these big money designated events next season.
We've recognized that together.
How much money did Jay Monahan get offered to help him realize that the LIV and the PGA Tour would be better together and as a for-profit LLC?
We can have a far greater impact on this game than we can working apart. And I give Yasser great credit for coming to the table, coming to the discussions with an open heart and an open mind. We did the same, and the game of golf is better for what we've done here today.
I'm a little confused still. But again, it's all being hashed out now. I'm sure I'll have another video out tomorrow, maybe a video every day this month, because my mind is truly blown right now.
And you're right. You know, there's been a lot of tension in our sport over the last couple of years.
With the fact that even Greg Norman himself was just informed, there's got to be a million more questions that are popping out. We'll get into those later. Of course, as this is a developing story, I can only inform you a few hours after the story breaks, and I have time to quickly read through it and then make a quick YouTube video. But moving forward, expect a lot of videos where I tell LIV Golf naysayers to suck it.
Lee and Ian, is there anywhere in the world you wouldn't play? If Vladimir Putin had a tournament, would you play there?
That's speculation. Not even going to comment on speculation.
So just in a generality, is there anywhere you wouldn't play on a moral basis?
All of us golf fans remember this type of questioning that the LIV golfers had to take on the chin. Now my question is, does Jay Monahan and all the PGA Tour players who had moral objections, at least initially, do they now continue to play golf because now you have a merger with LIV Golf, or do you still have your moral objections? Apparently Jay Monahan doesn't, because he's obviously gotten paid some money and now he's completely changed his tune 180 degrees. But let's see how this plays out with Golf Digest and Golf Week. And are all these guys able to somehow make us forget their original articles? How can you spin this when you've gone so hard in the one direction?
What is it with the Saudis and sports? What do you see in terms of it? You clearly value this idea of these global franchises. I've talked about, WWE or F1, just in terms of the interest there.
Now that Brandel Chambly is unable to do 10-minute golf segments using the phrase sports washing over and over again, and Eamon Lynch can't write his little nasty articles, in Eamon Lynch's article from a few days ago, he really outdoes himself. He uses drooling dipshits in the article, as in drooling dipshits who tweet. He badmouths PIF, the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund, which is now obviously funding the PGA Tour. And of course, he has the phrase sports wash and Jamal Khashoggi and dissection all in the same paragraph. What does Eamon Lynch do from here now that the PIF is funding the PGA Tour?
Not to mention, of course, what we call soccer, the rest of the world calls football.
Because it's a ball and a foot.
I get it.
That's why football.
You're right. We're wrong.
The host here literally asked them about sports, and it's just considered a normal investment. Whereas before, obviously, you're trying to cover up for these hideous crimes. How does everyone out there who was crying out sports washing now also take the new narrative and say, hey, these guys are just building up for Vision 2030? So what's interesting isn't just the merger of LIV and the PGA Tour, but it's of these conflicting narratives. Christine Brennan, what are you going to write now? What kind of questions are you going to ask to get up on your moral soapbox?
And it's all about how people respond in 10 years.
Jay's statement kind of blows through those narratives that LIV isn't going to invest any more money in golf and that LIV won't be around in a few more years.
And as I said to our members earlier today in a letter, the way that I described it was today is historic.
If you watch this Keith Pelley interview, you can only think, hey, this guy is trying to be forced to confess for some crime he didn't commit, and he's reading off a teleprompter. But that's just par for the course with Keith Pelley. Let's see what we can glean from this interview.
Historic is the right word, because ourselves, the PGA Tour, and the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, known as the PIF, are coming together to form a commercial entity that will unify men's professional golf.
If Greg Norman just found out, Keith Pelley must have gotten an email this morning saying, read this to the teleprompter. He gives one of the most robotic, unnatural performances of all time. And he probably is also stunned that he has to do such a quick reversal. And he knows that just a few weeks ago, all these LIV golfers from Europe were not going to be on the Ryder Cup team.
You say the end of division, but it also looks like the end of litigation too. Is that correct?
What came out in Discovery that made Keith Pelley and Jay Monahan say, you know what, we'll say whatever you want?
But it suffice to say, the time was right.
Are Keith Pelley's handlers not giving him a glass of water until he finishes reading this? That is the loudest lip smack I've ever heard.
So how does this impact the DP World Tour's plans for the 2024 season? And are you changing your plans?
I wouldn't say we are changing our schedule, but
there is no schedule next year because of the change, which is a change.
we had thought that we would be able to announce our full schedule at the Genesis Scottish Open this July, and I just don't think that's going to be feasible now.
To me, that sounds like you're going to change your schedule.
Does this announcement offer a route back to the DP World Tour members who were sanctioned and then resigned their membership?
Well, once again, I've been completely consistent.
I'm pretty sure Keith Pelley hasn't been completely consistent, so it's hilarious that he's actually throwing this out there. I don't know if now we're going to go into this big gaslighting campaign, but let's see where he goes from here.
In this, since we announced our sanctions in the first place, that there was always a route back. Players were not banned.
Keith Pelley's going to say they weren't banned, they were just sanctioned.
There was always a way for them to return to the DP World Tour. What we will do now is work very collaboratively with the PGA Tour and the PIF to establish what we believe to be fair and an objective process for any player who wants or wishes to reapply for membership, who wants to come back to the DP World Tour.
And guess what? Now they're working on a way for having these guys get back on to the European Tour. Let's see Sergio, Lee Westwood, and Ian Poulter on the European team and the Ryder Cup as a show of good faith. Folks, subscribe, share, and like. And obviously, I'm going to have to say right now, this episode is to be continued.